Let me tell you a Skyblock fact that you probably don't know. The Yeti sword is 65 million coins. Let me ask you another question. How many people actually use the Yeti sword? Do you know anyone who uses the Yeti sword? Do you use the Yeti sword? The answer is probably no. Well, the Yeti sword is obtainable by combining a ton of ice and iron. The materials themselves initially don't seem like enough to warrant the price tag. The hilt of true ice has a 1.5% chance to drop from a Yeti, hence the price of this weapon. But is it worth it? I've never even tried this weapon. On a face value, its ability seems very similar to that of a Midas staff. And of course the Midas staff's value for money is ridiculously good. So I'd say it's about time we put this weapon to the test. But before we do that, make sure to use code NITROS on anything that you purchase in the Hypixel store. It gets yourself 5% off. Now the Yeti sword that we're going to be testing out today has just set me back around about 87 million coins. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing crazy, but I reckon this is probably a standard Yeti sword that you would buy. Something that's very interesting about this sword is if you pair this sword with a legendary baby Yeti pet. Now an interesting fact about the Yeti sword is, like with other weapons, pets also work to the strength. The perk Yeti Fury on the legendary baby Yeti pet buffs the Yeti sword by plus 100 damage and intelligence. So I think we're going to give this a try, there we go. Now the Yeti sword itself is of course used primarily as a mage weapon. So we're just going to do a little initial damage test. We've got the sword, we've got our mage gear, we've got the Yeti pet equipped. If we try our right click ability... Oh, I've never used this sword before, that's not what I expected at all. Now let me try that again. Okay, that is so weird to use. Let's try this again. Okay, the damage was 896k, which isn't too bad. I was expecting it to work more like a Midas staff, where it wasn't really as long range. But that's fine, it's different, and we're getting around about 1 million damage. And what would be interesting to see is if we switched out to maybe something like a sheep pet, if that would actually make us deal more damage, or not. Okay, so let's try this now. Though a sheep pet, we're dealing... it's actually around about the same. Completely missed. Okay, I've just figured it out. Okay, where you aim on the floor is where it lands. How did I only just figure that out? Yeah, I think we're actually dealing slightly more damage with the sheep, it seems. But of course, the Yeti provides, well, survivability, but outside of dungeons, just with a basic damage test, I'm not sure whether it's even worth buying. However, yes, it's a mage weapon, but what is it really used for? I really struggled when making this video to understand what it was actually used for, because so little people actually use it, so I took to Discord. I asked people to give me uses for the Yeti sword. The first reply was no, and this was a theme. Gecko thinks it's just horrendous. Nej advises to sell it on the auction house and never use. Biggest Idiot tells me to never use it, although this is coming from an idiot, so yeah. Nikolai says it's actually kind of useful if you use it for Magma Boss in Crimson, which we'll have to try out because I haven't thought about that. Apparently tier 3 and tier 4 Void Gloom, I'm not sure how that could be, but we can try and probably fail. Killing fishing mobs from lava fishing, quite a few people said that. Unfortunately I don't fish, so yeah. Majority of people just told me to sell it, or it was good before the Midas stuff, or throw it in the void, or you can throw it away, which is understandable. Maybe for Wolf or Tarantula Slayer if you can one-shot, which yeah, I guess so. You can keep alternating between Yeti and Midas Staff since those have separate cooldowns. I did not think about that, but that is actually a pretty good idea. And finally, RCM dungeons, only if you can't afford a Midas Staff or Hype. Just use Spirit Scepter. Fair play. Anyway, my Discord server is linked in the description of every single video, so if you do want to join and voice your opinions on videos that I make in the future, then make sure to join. Also, you should subscribe to the channel, become part of the 28%. First of all, we're going to test this out in floor 6, and first impressions... very laggy. Okay, let's see what this can do to this Frozen Blaze. I mean, it's floor 6 at the end of the day, so it's not going to be much of an issue, but what I will say is it kind of lags everything out, which is it's just very, very odd to use, having not used it before. Having said that, the damage it deals isn't too bad. With a cost of 100 mana with Ultimate Wise 5 and a cooldown of 1 second, you can kind of spam it. It could be way worse. Here's the thing, right? A 100ml Midas Staff deals way more damage. Granted, it is around about 250ml more expensive. At the same time, the Midas Staff does way more damage. When I was testing the Midas Staff out a couple of weeks ago, I think it was dealing between 40 to 50 million damage, which is like 3 times, even more than 3 times the amount of damage that this deals. Well, that's to be expected, realistically. This is, like, a relatively old weapon. I mean, compared to the Midas stuff, I mean, well, when the Yeti sword was around, the Midas stuff wasn't around. And when the Midas stuff came out, people started using that instead of this because it is simply better. Still hard to get to grips with actually how to use it, having never used it before. So I did try to just use the Yeti sword against the terracottas, but I got nuked. We're going to just move on. Now what I want to do is test this weapon out against some mobs that it's probably not really meant to face. The Yeti sword was introduced years and years before the Crimson Isles was even rumoured. And honestly, the damage is pretty good. I mean, it definitely holds its own. Being able to two-shot something with 2.5 million health is pretty good. Doesn't mean it's a bad weapon at all. I mean, each hit's almost... The first hit's almost doing... I mean, it's actually a little bit hard to tell, but sometimes it almost does 2 million damage. Now that's of course with the sheep pet, and let's try the baby Yeti again to see if it can potentially fare any better against higher health mobs for whatever reason. It's just very, very similar, and for the sheep pet's price and then the Yeti pet's price, I don't really see the point in buying the Yeti pet. I mean, it might help you survive a little bit more. It was also mentioned that this Yeti sword is good against the magma boss, which I'm a little bit reluctant to test out because I'm not sure how that's really going to work. I mean, most people use a Terminator against a magma boss, or a bow, not usually a mage weapon. It was mentioned that maybe use Crimson against the magma boss too, but we're just going to test it in our storm first to see if we can do anything. Alright, I'm not going to lie. It's very laggy when you right click with this weapon. Very hard to tell if we're actually dealing any damage at all. I feel like I'm missing something, I really do. But I'm not sure what it is. I almost feel like I'm being trolled. This... It's barely doing any damage. I've been here for like 2 minutes, I'm on 20%. One little yellow bar. Yikes, what am I doing? Okay, so apparently another use was tier 3 and tier 4 Void Gloom, which I really can't see how that can be. However, I'm going to give it a go. Now, I can just about do tier 4 Void Glooms with the right setup. I'm a bit of a skill issue and whatever, but there's no point even attempting that. I'm just going to attempt a tier 3 and see what we can do. Okay, here we go. Let's see what we can do. Let us see. So let's try and just... Let's hit space out of the way using our Terminator. Oh, yeah. I don't like Void Glooms. Maybe we switch to our final destination, considering, well, we're going to be able to survive better. Okay, we'll give that another go. We'll try and get these hit space out of the way again. This Terminator. Okay, now we can actually damage it. Hopefully. No, that's the wrong weapon. I just panic when it comes to Void Glooms. See if we can actually deal any sort of damage. I'm just going to die if I'm being completely honest. Ugh, this DPS is lousy. The thing is, if I use a Storm, I'm dead straight away. I really should have got some healing items. I don't think this is going to be so difficult. Yikes. Probably a combination of a skill issue and this just realistically not being very good or fit for purpose. After all, once again, this weapon was introduced ages ago. Way, way, way before Void Glooms were a thing. Now, I know some people said you might as well avoid it, but I don't know, avoid something that's almost 100 mil. Alright, we'll see if we can maybe one-hit a Wolf Slayer with it. I don't know, a tier 4. I think we should be able to do it. I'm pretty sure I can one-tap it with the Hyperion. Alright, let's see if we can one-tap it, shall we? I mean, it was very quick, but at the same time, at this point, what weapon isn't quick to kill a tier 4 Sven? I mean, it was like 3 or 4 seconds, but I don't know. I'm not sure if they'll be spending like 80 or 90 million coins on a weapon just to do a tier 4 Sven. Now, here's where my confusion sort of starts a little bit with this weapon. The Yeti sword was introduced into Skyblock on the 18th of December 2019. So basically mere months after Skyblock was actually released. At that time, it was probably one of the most powerful weapons on the game. It would have been probably above most other things in terms of mage. But nowadays, there's just so many other options. You have a Midas staff, which is essentially very similar to a Yeti sword, but better. Probably better value for money too. For example, a weapon like the Spirit Scepter, way, way, way more cost efficient than the Yeti sword. It doesn't have a cooldown, even though it does slightly less damage. It's going to do way more DPS. Something like that is just going to be way better in pretty much every scenario. And it's cheaper. The Yeti sword isn't necessarily a bad weapon. I think at the moment it's just too expensive for what it is. Anyway, let me know what you think of the Yeti sword in the comments. Have you used it recently, or is it something that you've not used for a long time? Have you even heard of it before? Because newer players might not even be aware of its existence. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.